Sherlock Holmes consulting detective meets Lovecraft in this new mystery board game called Bureau of Investigation. Thank you for joining me here at Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Kevin Delp. Bureau of Investigation is a co-op mystery game in the style of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. It's published by Space Cowboys in connection with Asmodee, and they sent us this copy to review. In the box, you have the rulebook, map, directory, newspaper articles, and casebooks. Here's a quick overview of the game. There are different cases. Players will be given an introduction to the case you're trying to solve. You'll be using the casebook and other materials to investigate different locations, interview people, in order to figure out the answers you're looking for. The case will tell you how many leads you can follow before you need to wrap up and make your final decisions. Then the back of the casebook will tell you the conclusion to the story and how well you did. Now there are 5 cases in the box, and each case takes about 1.5 to 2 hours to play. In today's review, I'll try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible. I'll plan to cover the theme, the gameplay, the art and illustrations, components, and a little comparison to other deduction mystery games. So let's talk about the theme first. Bureau of Investigations. Well, the full name is Bureau of Investigations, Investigations in Arkham and Elsewhere. Now, this isn't Arkham from Batman. This is a fictional city, Arkham, in Massachusetts, created by H.P. Lovecraft. You're transported back to the 1920s as agents of the BOI, the Bureau of Investigation. This was the predecessor to the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You'll be uncovering secrets in Arkham, Boston, and beyond. You see, these cases are drawn heavily from H.P. Lovecraft stories, but you don't have to know or read them in order to play and solve the cases. So the theme has a scientific horror bent to it. Mysterious creatures, extraterrestrials, things beyond the human comprehension. Now for the gameplay. When you begin a case, you'll open up the casebook for that scenario, read the introduction, and it will tell you your objective, how to win for that specific case. It would also tell you what items you'll need for the case, like the directory, which map and newspaper. Then it's really up to the group to decide where and what they want to investigate. You do have a decision once you choose a location. Do you want to do an interview at the location or perform an investigation at the location? Now that is something I like and don't like at the same time. I like that it is separate. To interview someone, you know that you'll be talking to someone, and investigating, you'll be searching locations, surveilling, or tailing someone. And that leads to the small complaint. Sometimes you don't know whether you should interview or investigate. Maybe I think I'm gonna go investigate an area to search out a location, but when you go there in the book, it has you tailing someone that may or may not be helpful for your case. Now you could always choose to go to the opposite place, whether you did interview first and then investigate, or investigate then interview, but that will take another lead, which of course takes time. Now once you choose, you'll locate that specific lead in the casebook. You'll find a brief story, whether you investigated or talking to someone in an interview. Hopefully that will give you more leads as you uncover the mystery to help you solve the case. Now I highly recommend pen and paper to take notes of what you find or interesting leads to follow. The scenario is over when you reach the number of leads allowed for that case. Every case has you choose 3 locations where you want to neutralize the threat for that scenario. Those are going to be places where you think the suspect is or something bad's happening in that spot. So choose those 3 locations, solving the case by reading the intervention at the back of the casebook for those 3 locations, and see the end of the story and figure out how well you did. You'll be getting points if you chose the right places. 7 points. It's a perfect score if you can do it. Now the stories are captivating and well done. They actually have different degrees of difficulty. On the front of the casebooks, it has number of seals there. And now it doesn't really explain in the rulebook what they mean, but we kind of assume that fewer numbers meant easier cases to solve. I would personally say the first case was easier than the second case, but they both only have 1 seal on them. Here are the names of all 5 cases in the box. The Face, The Expedition, The House of the Sorcerer, The Spartacus Case, and The Gunboat. Now overall, the translation from French to English is okay. There were some syntax, word choice, and sentence structure oddities that could have just been a little bit better. So here's an example. One funny thing that we've seen a few times now is that they use a word cyclopean or cyclopean. Well, when I first heard that word, I actually thought, the word cyclops, which is like a one-eyed monster. But it actually means something massive. I would have chosen a word like colossal instead. It just makes a little more sense to English speakers, I think. Let's move on to art and illustrations. Now, I like the aesthetic of the chosen design and think it works well for the stories. It has an Art Deco feel that's reminiscent of the time period. In the casebooks, many of the times you'll be shown a picture or find a scrap of something, and it's all done well to immerse you in the story. Now, for the components, I really like the maps provided. In Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, you have the map of London, which is cool looking, but if you actually want to use it, sometimes a London map can be a little overwhelming. There are tons of streets that go everywhere, and it can be hard to find the right one sometimes. But in the Bureau of Investigation, the maps are a little simpler, and not every street is named, which means it's easier to find what you're looking for. The regions are well marked out as well, like southeast, northwest, and things like that. Also, love the tab system of the casebooks. Such a great addition. The Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective ones don't have that. It makes it a little faster for you to find different locations, which make it easier to play the game and keep you immersed in the story. The directory works well too. Most of the book is used to find a person's name and see where they live that you can then use to follow a lead. But at the back of the book, it also has businesses that are very helpful too. Banks, churches, hotels, places like that. Okay, now let's do a little comparison. I'll focus on Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and Mythos Tales, as they are very similar mystery deduction type games. Now, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective originally came out in the 1980s and has recently been revived by Space Cowboys and Asmodee. They are the ones that are producing Bureau of Investigation as well. So there's going to be a lot of scenarios, and they have quite a few of the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective that you see right here. We have the Thames Murders, the Carlton House, we have Jack the Ripper and West End Adventures, and Baker Street Irregulars. I believe there's one or two more. So a lot of similarities in the production. Of course, a major difference is the theme. Sherlock Holmes for one, Lovecraft for this one. There are way more cases available, of course, for Sherlock Holmes because they've been around a little bit more. I do think that they keep progressing and streamlining the game system as they come out with more scenarios. The older scenarios just were a little bit more clunky. The newer ones are a little bit easier. I think now with the Bureau of Investigation, the story seems more compact, and sometimes there are so many places that you could go in Sherlock, in a Sherlock scenario, it can feel a little overwhelming, but in Bureau, it's a little bit more limited. The tab system's great and works well to help you find locations. One big difference is the solving of the cases. In Sherlock, you have a number of questions at the end of the game that you need to answer, and even side quest stuff that you may or may not have encountered. In Bureau of Investigation, you just need to choose 3 locations and see how well you did. In Sherlock, it feels like a race against Sherlock, but in Bureau, I feel like you can enjoy the story just a little bit more. Another big difference between these two is that Sherlock has a list of people that are always available for you. They're called informants. They are sources of information for things like finding out things about illegal affairs, ancient documents, movement of suspects, and things like that. Now, there isn't anything like that in the Bureau of Investigation, and I think that's okay. I think it keeps your choices a little bit more limited. The newspapers are different too. I feel like the newspapers had a little bit of a connection in the Sherlock cases, and sometimes you needed multiple newspapers. But in Bureau, the newspapers are directly connected and only used for that case. And they're helpful too for multiple leads, which I really liked. So there's also a game called Mythos Tales. That came out back in 2016. The similarity, of course, right away you'll know is the theming, both Lovecraft. I don't think you can purchase Mythos Tales anymore, so I'm going to keep this really, really brief. Mythos Tales is not that good of a game. It had problems, made solving of the cases very, very frustrating. So definitely would not recommend that. Bureau of Investigation marries the Lovecraft theme with the consulting detective theme very well. And I think it even enhances the game to make it better. I've enjoyed playing this game, and if you're looking for a new mystery deduction type game, I think you're going to enjoy it too. Actually, you can play a demo scenario of Bureau of Investigation if you want. There's a link that I'll put in the description to a case you can access on the Space Cowboys website. Well, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and spread the love of board gaming.